This is something I've worked on for the last 4 weeks. I designed it to avoid annoying people and getting a hard time for it. Since I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD, I'm always super fidgety. Tapping my fingers, shaking my knee,
Shake it, baby.
You know what I mean. That's why I wanted to create a quiet fidget toy. And because I am a nerd who likes to build my own stuff, I wouldn't just buy one online. Instead, I decided to engineer one myself. In this video, I will take you with me, covering the entire process from the spark of the idea to finding the right parts, which was not easy, prototyping, developing this thing, with no coding skills required by the way, and designing a custom case in CAD and 3D printing it. But it all started with this simple idea. One morning my wife and I were sitting at the table and I was browsing the web on my tablet when subconsciously my knees started shaking again to release some of the built-up energy.
Stop it.
That was obviously not the first time this happened. For the sake of my marriage, I was thinking about building my own fidget toy, because the ones I got were either quite noisy or not fun at all, and they all had one thing in common. They were not working with electronics. That was the moment I started brainstorming with a good friend of mine, Rob. He also has ADHD, and after a short while we had a clear idea of what the device should offer. It should be satisfying, interactive, quiet, and easy to use. With these requirements in mind, we came up with a device that has just one button. You press the button to enter a sequence, like tapping out a message in Morse code, and the device will remember exactly how long you press the button and the pauses in between, and then it will copy that pattern using a vibration motor for haptic feedback. Let's have a look again on the requirements. This concept should be satisfying, especially if we use something like a really satisfying button. It is interactive because we can choose which pattern or sequence to enter. Is it quiet? That depends on the hardware and how we control the motor, but yes, it can be. And it's easy to use, since there's only one button. Anyone can figure it out within seconds, just by playing with it. For this I need to get some components to make this possible. Let's start with the most obvious one, the button. I have a wide variety of different buttons in a drawer, but as you might remember, the main focus was that the button must be satisfying. The only button I own that comes close to meeting this requirement is this big and bulky metal button. It has a satisfying click at the end of the press, but that's a problem because unfortunately this click is not very quiet. After some more browsing through different buttons, I found one that immediately caught my attention. Why not use a computer keyboard switch? It is so obvious. If it's good enough for a fast and sometimes picky gamer, it's good enough for my fidget toy. After doing a bit more research, I found a silent MX keyboard switch from Cherry, which sounds like the perfect fit. MX switches have a specific standard and they produce them with dozens of variations. I found an experience pack on Amazon that features most of them, from very clicky and tactile to nearly noiseless and linear. I'm pretty sure we will find a suitable button in this package. This idea was a game changer for me, because with the MX switch standard we also have access to endless keycaps we can buy online, but more on that later. What makes it even better is that these switches are swappable if you have the right socket. This means we can later switch them out for a different style of button. From silent to very clicky, your imagination is the limit here. So I ordered a pack of these sockets as well to see if this would work. Next on our list, the vibration motor that provides the satisfying haptic feedback. Oh my gosh, vibration motor seems to be a weird search term. I found 3 different types of vibration motors in total. The disc style motor, the cylindrical ones, yeah I know they look kinda weird, and last but not least, one that looks like Apple's Haptic Engine. I bought them all to test which one would perform the best. To control the motor later on, we will need some kind of driver board, which should make it easier and give us fine gradual control. This little cute board is a haptic driver board and it should be a great fit. Now onto the brain of the device, finding a microcontroller for this purpose. I chose the ESP32 for this job. It's a very popular microcontroller with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth functionality. I wanted as much freedom as possible, since these features might come in handy later on. As you can clearly see, there are dozens of different ESP developer boards with various layouts. Since the Fidget toy is battery powered, it would be great to have one that already comes equipped with a battery. Luckily, I found this board that can hold a battery, and what's even more convenient, it can charge the battery directly via USB. Nice! For the battery I have plenty on hand. We will be using a lithium-ion cell called 18650. The specific type is irrelevant since we use so little energy that it doesn't really matter. The parts are ordered and in the meantime we can start coding our project and test it online without touching any hardware. You don't believe me? I will show you how. To write the code, we will use ChatGPT, so we are not really writing it ourselves, we will let the AI do it for us. We're living in crazy times, huh? You can pause the video to read it if you're curious. I asked the AI to write an ESP32 program that takes a button sequence and plays it back with a buzzer. Since the simulator in the second step doesn't have a motor, we will hear the pattern through the buzzer for now. I hope that makes sense. And here we have our first code and it even tells us which pins to connect to make it work. But will this generated source code actually work? To test it, we will use Wokwi. It's a free simulator that lets you wire up your project and run the code directly to see how it behaves. It's really cool. I connect the wires exactly as ChatGPT is telling us. First, we wire the button and then the buzzer. As you can see, you can also change the colors of the wires and move them around for better visibility. Looks fine to me. Let's copy the source code to Wokwi and see if it works. While waiting for the compile to finish, I'm curious, are you enjoying this video? If so, a thumbs up would really help my channel grow and reach more people. Thank you so much. The program runs, but when I press the button there is no sound. However, we see in the log window that it recognizes the presses, which isn't bad already. To get the program exactly how I wanted, it took many ping-pong messages until it worked 100% correctly. But finally, we can enter our sequence. And now it's replicated by the buzzer. Brilliant.
Nice.
Since I haven't received any parts yet to test the code on real hardware, I had to postpone this test. Instead, I'm now thinking about a case for my DIY fidget toy. To get a better idea of the dimensions, I made a paper model of the ESP32 developer board, which should be the largest component. In the next step, I will create a cat size model to get an idea how it could feel in my hands. It is just a cylindrical shape with some tolerances to fit the ESP32 board inside. Afterwards, I will send it to my 3D printer to bring it to life. Let's see how it feels. It's a bit bulky and doesn't sit in my hands as well as I was hoping for. Luckily, the parts have arrived in the meantime, so now we can see if the simulated code will also work in the real world. You might be wondering what this is. It's a high-quality USB-C cable I bought to power one of my soldering irons. If you're interested in learning how to solder, I highly recommend checking out my series on this topic. To test the source code, I transferred it to the ESP32 using my computer and platform I/O. The only errors I encountered so far were that I had to move some of the code to the top so it could be used later in the program. But this is also something you can ask ChatGPT to help with by showing it the error messages to fix things like that. Time to connect the ESP32 to the computer. And let's upload the code. Nice, let's connect it and see if it works. What do you think? Since I don't want to solder the pin headers to the board, the connection might be a bit wonky. Let's insert the battery cell, it's charged and should work. I need to make sure to put it in the right way, the upper side is the positive one. Flip the switch and we have power. Nice. But will it charge while it is in use? Yep, the red charging LED is on. Once it's fully charged, a green LED will light up. Let's quickly wire everything according to the ChatGPT schematic and see if it works. Perfect, it works like a charm. The next step is to modify the code to use a motor instead of the buzzer. In preparation for that, I will solder the pin headers to the driver board we will use to control the motor. After letting ChatGPT know to change the code to use a motor with the driver board instead of the buzzer, and after some more trials and back and forth, and yes, it's sometimes really frustrating when it doesn't work, we finally have a working code in the end. Nice, let's check how each of our ordered motors behaves to pick the best one. Let's start with the cylindrical one. That feels quite strong. Next one is the disc style motor. This one is much calmer, I like it so far. And last but not least, the Haptic Engine motor. This one is special, you can't run it for a specific amount of time, it just briefly activates and then you have to trigger it again. Similar to the haptic feedback on your phone when you type. In our case, this isn't usable. So the winner is the disc style motor. But what about the MX switches I ordered? Here they are! Here we have 10 different MX switches to test and hear how they sound. Let me quickly grab a key from my keyboard since the keycaps haven't arrived yet. Nice. This one is much more audible. All of them sound different, but I don't want to take up too much time for this. However, the next one is extremely clicky. It's really cool how different they all are, but if I have to choose one, I will go with the MX Silent Red, because it's truly very quiet. To make the switches swappable for a customizable experience, we will need to attach some wires to the sockets we just ordered. I'm not really sure if it's a good idea to solder these, as they seem a bit fragile, so my first attempt is to crimp them using a pair of pliers. But this only resulted in a deformed piece of metal that fell out of the socket, so that's not the right way, I guess. So I grabbed a new one and soldered it with as little heat as possible. Now I did the same with the other side, but this isn't the best solution either. Even with minimal heat, the connectors slightly shift position. Does anyone know the right way to do this? Please let me know in the comments. But in the end, we can still equip the socket with the switch and see if it works. Perfect, we are all set, but something is still missing: a case design. I wanted the case to look similar to the remote control of my teleprompter, so I sketched something out to have a clear idea in mind while working in CAD. This was one of the more time-consuming tasks of the whole project, because with every iteration I had to print it and check it out in the end. No, this is still not good, it's much too big. Yeah, mounting it sideways would save a lot of space. That's much better.
One eternity later.
It's done. After many more tries, I finally have the design ready. There is a place for every single component. Let's print it. To fasten both halves, I will use screws. To do this properly, I will melt threaded inserts into the print using my soldering iron. This works like a charm. Fastly print the other half of it. And because I am an idiot, I melted the threaded inserts into the wrong half. Okay, so now we have inserts on both sides. Not really an issue, but definitely not needed. Finally, it's time for the last bit of soldering and assembling everything to see what could go wrong. This is the mount for the MX switch socket to hold it in place. It can slide into one of the halves to be positioned securely. Let's test if it's possible to swap the switches as intended. Unfortunately, it's not working. I think the main problem is that the position isn't perfectly aligned, which bends the legs of the switches. If this happens too often, they could break and then the switch becomes useless. Furthermore, the metal contacts tends to slip out of the socket itself, which could be a side effect of soldering the wires to it. This means I have to abandon the idea of the swappable button. Maybe you have an idea of how it could work better? Let me know. I will solder all the remaining connections directly to the ESP32 so we can place it in the case afterwards. Now we will smash everything into the case as best we can and hope for the best. Oh, I nearly forgot to show you the other stuff I promised. The keycaps. As long as we have keycaps for MX switches, they will fit on this device. How about this one? Funky. Or how about a keycap made out of wood? Let's try the strange turtle one. But the best one, if you ask me, is the low profile cap that reminds me of a PlayStation controller. Let's see if it works. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's not perfect, obviously. What would have you done differently? I'm very curious, just let me know. If you wanna learn soldering, watch this video over here, and as always, happy tinkering!